Okay, so the last time we talked about starting a new project, even when you don't feel like it. And this week I really got to try this advice. Because I tell you, I did not feel ready in the slightest. But I started anyway. One of the biggest factors for me is shutting up my brain and not listening to the voice that thinks about how this might or might not work out. Trying to simply concentrate on doing the thing. What I want you to learn from this is it might go better than you think. In my case, I would say I didn't achieve only about 25% of the things I set out to do this week. Which, honestly, now looking back, is way less than I anticipated. So, until about Friday, I was like really happy. I finally started writing. I drew semi regularly. I finished and uploaded my first video. And then the perfectionist in me reared its head and said, "Ha! There's so much you didn't do, you loser. You shouldn't be proud. You're a disgrace." And after being down and feeling defeated the rest of the evening on Friday, I watched the first Brandon Sanderson lecture on the morning of Saturday, which, by the way, I forgot to tell you, but is completely free to watch on YouTube. And what I've seen of it, I can totally recommend. I'm gonna link it in the description. And the thing that stuck with me was that if you haven't written between 3 and 5 books, your job isn't to write perfect books and think about how to sell them. Your only job is to learn your personal writing routine and what works for you. And if you transfer that to any project, then that really fits with what I told you last week. Stop worrying about doing it perfectly and make it exist first. So, looking at it from the other side, yeah, okay, maybe I could have done more. You can almost always argue that. But completing 75% of the things I set out to do is a hell of an achievement. I can be proud of that, and I will be proud of that. Now that we've got my emotional rollercoaster out of the way, let's get into the details. Okay, so today is Thursday, and I really didn't do the best job of writing down my thoughts. Okay, let's just recap the week up to this point. Monday and Tuesday, I spent pretty much all day editing the first video. I spent Monday morning drawing the mini-me, but I didn't draw otherwise. Also, I didn't write at all those 2 days, but I guess it would be fine since I got some writing down last week before I officially started this project. So late on Tuesday evening, I finished the video, rendered it, and then realized I still needed to write the description text and make a thumbnail, and I did that. Then I uploaded it, and I set it to go public on the next morning. So Wednesday was my first real day where I followed the writing schedule, which worked out incredibly well. I'd written about 1,400 words and had a total word count of 2,636, which means I could color in the first and second book in the word count bookshelf. I also figured out how to make notes in the Word document without it counting towards the word count. I just gave the notes a different text type, and I set it with right click, set the text type to be hidden, and then it only shows when you tap the weird paragraph P, or you press Control Shift and the little star, the asterisk, I think it's called. And I only drew for half an hour instead of a full one because it was already pretty late. Today, which I remind you is Thursday, I've only written for a little more than 2 hours, but I'm fine with that as long as I get to the day's writing goal. And I wrote about 1,000 words, colored in the third book, and I really love the visual tracker I made. That was the recap of Monday through Thursday. I think this is the perfect moment to show you the word count and the writing I've done this week. Okay, hear me out. You don't need to be scared by numbers. I said it last time, I say it again. This column shows you how much I did write on every day. And this column shows you the sum of everything together. And see here, this shows you the percentage of how much I completed from the 75,000 words goal. I think all of the others are not as important for you. And then I've got this chart, which shows you the daily word counts over the week. Like I said, I didn't write on Monday and Thursday, but then on Wednesday I did really, really good, and it dropped off a bit over the week. And Sunday I didn't write much, but I guess it's still better than nothing, so yeah. Overall, I think I'm pretty happy with this week. I believe this will be better and more consistent over time. So to summarize this week, I've written 4,583 words. The total word count right now is 5,804. I'm 447 words behind. And that means we can fill the word count bookshelf with 5 books for this week. Maybe you are interested to know how I write, and I'm really sorry to say this, but I have no clue. I sit down and I write what comes to mind. I guess I write how I read. I start at the beginning and note down what I think will happen next. I've tried to construct plot points and think about different types of character arcs with other previous projects, but this never really worked for me. This just sitting here and forcing what comes to mind does work for me, at least for now, and I'm not scared about potential plot holes. There will be plot holes, I know, but I'm gonna figure it out in the rewrite. That this is not a reliable way to write is what I've had to learn on Sunday. I sat down, and even though I had an idea of what could happen next, it just didn't feel right. That's why I'd only written 400 words. After about 15 minutes of nothing coming up, I decided to take a walk through the nearby woods and think about the situation my main character's in. And no, I didn't have a magical, life-altering enlightenment by God that told me exactly what to do, but I got new inspiration. And for now, that's enough. Okay, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read you a scene from the book. I think there's not much you need to know since the scene is fairly at the beginning. Yeah. Stepping down from the double bus, I put my hand on the sphere surrounding my home plot, and my holoband lets me enter. It opens in an arc and closes immediately after I've taken the first step to the front door. Noticing the newly budding light yellow chrysanthemums in a mixed flower pot to my left, I step onto the mat before the door, and it reads, "Insert something funnier." I imagined like her mother bought a cute gag gift for the Father's Day, or I don't know if they have a Father's Day, but just for the father because it's funny. Yeah. "Welcome, Holly," the warm, simulated voice of my parents' homecoming greets me, right before my youngest brother runs around the corner and bites right into me. "Sorry, Holly." He shows me the empty gap between his front teeth while smiling up to me. Lightly tapping the top of his head, I put my head to one side and ask, "How did you lose your tooth? Did you fall from one of the trees in the garden again?" A slight rose tint forms on his cheeks. I was practicing with my wings, really high up in the tree, when a big bird came through in the sphere. It was this big. When he puts his arms as far to the sides as he can, a grin spreads over my lips. And then it flew right at me, so I jumped. Yes, I jumped and flew to the ground. Mom says I was really brave, just like Dragon Man in the TV. And Mom is totally right, Theo. I'm sure you flew really bravely down that tree. Do you want to show me so I can see how good you can fly? Putting my hands on my knees, I lean down so I'm at the same height as him. With big eyes that look everywhere but at me, and an O on his lips, he fiddles with his hands behind his back. I don't think that's necessary, but maybe next time. And with that, he's running away again, and almost stumbling into that this time. I notice the grey hair from his sides is almost worked up to the top of his head already. "Hi, Hollipop." Bringing me into a gruff hug, he holds me at the shoulders and looks down at me. "What are you doing here? Everything's alright?" Wordlessly, we turn to the kitchen, where he puts an order for 2 coffees into the meal intercom. "I'm fine. Just have a big project coming up and thought I'd show myself at home before going into work mode again." Hopping onto the top of the kitchen counter, in the middle of the room, the robotic arm of the com sets down the coffee to the side of me, and another before that. Scooping some sugar into mine, I blow over it before taking my first scorching taste. Where's Mom? I noticed the chrysanthemums in the front yard are about to bloom. Oh, she's with Riley at her some type of sports practice. She has her next big game coming up next week and is really nervous. Maybe you could talk to her later and give her some motivation? Answering with a non-committal small grunt, I look deep into the dark brown color of my coffee before looking up again. Glancing out of the window, he smiles before turning back to me. "Also, a good thing that you remind me of the flowers. I wanted to paint them for your mom's birthday in a few weeks." Noticing his pan-smeared hands, I get my hopes up. "Do you have a new commission you work on?" I start a question, but I already know the answer before I complete it. Dad's face falls, and then he gets that faraway look before turning to the window again. "No, The silence filling the room is deafening, and I regret asking. When I've completed my thesis, I could start working at the coffee shop again and help out. With a sigh, he comes to me and lays a hand on my shoulder. Thank you, sweetheart, but we've got this. You got your own life to live now. A small smile on his lips that doesn't reach his eyes. But after that, we move to easier topics. He tells me all about Mom's newest garden project and Riley's rivalry with a classmate that he is sure will be her girlfriend before the year is over, and I show him pictures of my trip to the mountain location and the amulet I found. Looking out the window of the train track to my apartment, I try to imagine what this place might have looked like 3,000 years ago, without all the solar panels, lilac hills, the glass panes, and millions of people. Instead, there were tall evergreens and tiny one-story cottages, and people still needed to fly everywhere they wanted to go. Maybe I'll commission Orzi to draw some sketches for me again. I make a mental note to ask him the next time we meet in HVR space. When I open the door to my apartment, the hearty smell of my favorite dish makes me leave all my worries at the door. Oh, this smells heavenly. This is exactly what I needed. Thank you, Archie. Hanging my jacket at the entrance, I change out of my shoes as the smooth voice of the com responds, You're welcome, Holly. How was your day? Walking into the main room, I notice that Archie has already entered living room mode and placed a bowl of green pasta on the armrest of the couch and turned on the low lights for a relaxed ambience. Work was good. I got a short trip back to the Delayde cave approved, which is going to happen in 2 days. And then I stopped by at my family's plot. Mom's got some nice chrysanthemums about to blossom. Do you want me to send a small dose of specialized fertilizer for those flowers? Nodding, I answer. Yeah, let's do that. After the next bite, I lift a fork and mumble a status report, with my mouth full. You didn't come home yesterday, so I fed the fishes and watered the plants, even though I know you like to do that yourself. The bills have been paid by the Garrison's University like every quarter. Also, you've got one new message from Kobe 12 minutes ago, reading, Hey, I forgot to ask, but do you want to go get lunch tomorrow? See you. Would you like to answer him? Swallowing a nod. Yeah, we can get lunch. See you tomorrow. Send. Picking up the next bite, I wait for the message sent before saying, Arch, open TV unit and let's continue the documentary about the ape people. The plants are moved to the side and make space on the wall of the sphere, as you'd like, Holly. I'm sure I still got a lot to learn, but I'm really happy with the progress that I made. And I hope you enjoyed this video and feel motivated to work on your own projects. I'll see you in the next one.